Pika pika!
On the Alolan coast, survival means constantly climbing higher. The massive claws are not just weapons, but perfect shields. In nature, the strong take their share. The weak wait for opportunities. Instincts drives them to conquer the highest peaks of the terrain. The exhausted loser releases chemicals as foam through its mouth. The desire to climb high sometimes leads to fatal biological mistakes. Impacts force muscles to adapt and become tougher. Population pressure pushes them to a harsher survival environment. Where resources deplete, brutal new natural enemies gradually reveal themselves. A fleeting victory is merely a stepping stone to greater pain. Physical impact exceeds the endurance limit of the chitin shell. Sub-zero temperatures alter cellular structure from deep within. Touching the ice energy core, the mutated evolution process begins. The survivor stands atop the food chain of the frozen tundra. The freezing environment now becomes an endless source of power. The former predators have now become the underdogs. Thick fur absorbs damage. Massive claws deliver the finishing counterattack. The cycle of evolution continues to test those hungry to climb. The peak always demands a price paid in blood and bone. Before matter formed, only formless chaos awaited order. At energy intersection points, physical laws begin to collapse. From reality's flip side, Giratina rises, bearing an antimatter hunger. It seeks to merge the material world with the chaos of the void. Two entities operating in parallel, together maintaining physical constants. Ancient guardians are forced to answer the call of imbalance. Dialga freezes the moment of destruction, while Palkia excises infected space. However, Giratina is a master of bending physical rules. Space obeys its master's absolute will to protect its ally. Time's light pierces darkness, but chaos still tries to drag reality down. They imprison the rebel with the very gravity and matter it rejects. The outcast's final resistance shakes both worlds. Palkia manipulates spatial curvature, creating an artificial gravity well to crush the rebel. Final judgment is delivered, the absolute convergence of space and time. Chaos is forcibly repelled to the void, where physical laws do not exist. Reality's tear is stitched shut, the sky returns to its primordial state. Palkia reinforces the spatial grid structure, restoring eternal stability. Time flows on, washing memories of the divine war into oblivion. And space always expands. The gatekeepers return to silent observation. This balance is the greatest, yet most fragile gift. Innate strength is sometimes a curse, lulling the owner into arrogance. When ego outweighs skill, failure is inevitable. Precision counters punish brutal sloppiness. A painful lesson carved into scorched flesh. The loser is left with the ashes of self-esteem, but humiliation can be fuel for rebirth. Enduring pain to turn muscles into cold steel. It seeks masters to relearn fighting from zero. Learning to stand firm before learning to strike. Forced concentration technique replaces meaningless waste of power. Rhythm and reflexes honed through thousands of punches. And finally, facing its own wild nature. Absorbing nature's fury to control internal current. Chaos has been tamed into a focused energy source. The return, no longer the clumsy giant of the past. The battle begins with familiar destruction. But the outcome will not repeat. Speed and precision replace sluggishness. Accepting hits to create critical counterattack opportunities. Breaking opponent's center of gravity with basic martial arts technique. A perfect combo sequence programmed from iron discipline. Warrior senses pierce through any fog. The enemy pours everything into the final finisher. The deciding moment between inferno and thunder. Willpower transcends physical pain. Technique converges power into a single point. One strike ends it all. The old king has fallen. Victory belongs not to the strongest, but to the most steadfast. True strength has been forged in fire, and in this misty forest, silence is the perfect camouflage for death. Fungus, the patient mimic, waiting for nutrition to come to it. Curiosity is often a death sentence in the wild. The eternal sleep comes very gently. But the food chain order can always be overturned. Scolipede, a ruthless predator that knows no mercy. Defensive reflex, stun spore to slow the enemy. But thick armor neutralizes the weak counterattack. The impact crushes the mushroom's fragile structure. Final effort, high-density sleep spores. On the brink of death, it clings to life by draining the enemy. Crushing pressure triggers cellular explosion. From the rubble, a moongus rises. Now, its body is a living fortress. Clear smog wipes away all the opponent's stat boosts. Draining vitality to nourish the new shell. Counter-attacking the critical weak point. The death throes of a fallen predator. Rage powder misdirects the final focus. A ruthless finisher at unavoidable range. The predator has become fertilizer for the fungus. Unova Highlands, where life operates based on a strict climatic balance. Tornadus initiates the cycle, forcing moist air masses to migrate upward. Thunderous uses electromagnetic fields, preventing cloud structures from dissipating. Landorus acts as a geological filter, absorbing excess energy into the soil. A perfect biological engine maintained by wind, lightning, and earth. But a super-ancient entity has emerged, threatening to shatter the order. Groudon. Its existence is synonymous with drought and thermal radiation. Abrupt geological structures sever the life veins of the highlands. Landorus is forced to resist to protect the integrity of the soil. The trio begins coordinating, activating a forced environmental restoration mechanism. Tornadus creates a thermal insulation wall, isolating the invader's heat source. Thunderous attacks with high-frequency current, overloading the opponent's nervous system. Landorus exploits gravity, breaking the giant creature's stable footing. Powerful aerodynamic currents sweep the heat away from the ecosystem's core. The destroyer is repelled by a sudden, forced climatic inversion. The rain cleanses, bringing necessary moisture to regenerate the flora. Stability returns as the earth begins to heal its own scars. Residual charges are reclaimed, returning the atmosphere to a serene stillness. They are not gods, they are the survival reflexes of nature. The disruptor waits, but the protectors are always vigilant. Sustainable harmony is always purchased at the cost of battles. Deep beneath the Asado crust, a lightless ecosystem exists. The Temple of Karun, where time freezes around clay sentinels, not living organisms, but bio-automatons powered by magnetic fields. This sacred silence is about to be shattered by biological greed. Excadrill, the metallic rodent drawn by the ancient energy core. When threats appear, defense protocols automatically engage. Only absolute protective directives. Excadrill strikes with a horn drill rotating at 3000 RPM. Gullet counters with Shadow Punch, a shockwave passing through solid matter. Enraged, the Predator triggers tremors to destroy the terrain. An ironclad headbutt delivering tons of impact force. Ceramic shell breached. Life force energy is leaking critically, but this leak inadvertently connects with the temple's ley line flow. Instead of dying, the machine initiates emergency matter reconstruction. Excadrill lunges to finish the prey, but its victim has evolved far beyond its original design. Golett becomes Golurk, the ancient's walking fortress. With body mass tripled, physical strength is overwhelming. Golurk engages psychic propulsion thrusters, defying gravity. Heavy Slam turns the entire body into a weapon of mass destruction. Impact force equals a minor meteorite collision. A follow-up punch overloads the organic creature's senses. Biological target completely neutralized. The threat to the temple is eliminated. Instinctual fear will keep it away permanently. Order re-established. Repair process initiated. The Guardian machine returns to its millennial slumber. In the deep green labyrinth of the canopy, cuteness is a perfect camouflage. Emolga, the trickster of the skies. It prefers hot meals, a breakfast cooked by 10,000 volts. But as twilight falls with the rain, the forest turns into a deadly arena. Galvantula, the weaver of lightning. It has blockaded Emolga's wind corridors. Millisecond reflexes. Speed versus area of effect power. The entire tree is now a no-go zone. Illusions, the weapon of the physically weaker, but the veteran hunter always knows how to find the truth. Classic hit-and-run tactics. Volt Switch, the ultimate tactical move, damage and retreat simultaneously. A cornered monster is the most dangerous kind. Nowhere to run. A risky gamble. Wild Charge, willing to hurt itself to take down the enemy. Victory belongs to the faster and the more reckless. Tomorrow morning, it will be a cute flying squirrel again, but tonight, it is the master of the storm. The boundary between vegetation and water is always a cradle of life. In these damp hills, a miraculous biological cycle is about to begin. Unlike ordinary reptiles, turtwig does not seek food the moment it hatches. It relies on a primordial survival mechanism, direct photosynthesis. Its shell is neither horn nor bone. It is a biological alluvial structure, maintaining its integrity only when fully hydrated. To supplement minerals, they harvest flora in their own unique way, then directly extract the sap through osmotic capillaries. But the night strips away their solar energy, turning them into perfect targets for cold-blooded predators. Kricketune has no concept of mercy for fledgling prey. However, the alluvial shell provides an excellent sliding friction coefficient to deflect the attack. Surviving predation is only the first trial. Extreme climate is the most ruthless filter of natural selection. Without water, the soil structure on its shell begins to fracture. Survival signs plummet to critical levels. But nature always rewards the patient. The early summer rains pour down. Water triggers a mutant biochemical reaction. Cell membranes expand, weight skyrockets. The second evolutionary stage, Grottle. It is no longer just a consumer, but has become a symbiotic host. These bushes perform dual photosynthesis, turning grottles back into an automated microbial oasis. Benefits attract guests. Small creatures seek shelter in exchange for clearing parasites from the host. But a micro-ecosystem also attracts the attention of the hungry from the sky. It does not hesitate to use force to protect its symbiotic members. Years pass. When drought exceeds the tolerance threshold of local flora, a forced great migration begins. The mass of soil and vegetation carried is crushing its skeletal system. This overload forces a final biological mutation. Terra, a biological tank, a complete mobile ecosystem. Its existence no longer depends on a territory because it is a territory itself. This mobile territory is rarely aggressive but will show no mercy to any senseless destruction. By manipulating seismic waves, it issues an ultimate physical warning. Stupidity sometimes overpowers the survival instinct. This biological resistance completely nullifies the enemy's momentum without the need to pursue. From a fragile mudshell, it has risen into a giant carrying life itself upon its back. Every step is a sowing of seeds. The journey of this walking continent is the clearest proof of nature's eternity. In prairies submerged in tall grass, optical vision is virtually useless. For navigation, creatures here rely on sensory capillary filaments acting as a biological radar system. By analyzing microparticles in the air, they reconstruct the surrounding spatial map. In this environment, hunting kinetic energy must be absolutely controlled until the moment of explosive release. The sudden change in air pressure immediately triggers the prey's escape reflex. These physical tests continuously refine the neural reflex coefficient of the musculoskeletal system. But on the open prairie, predators possessing aerodynamic advantages always hold control. The sensory filaments detect pressure fluctuations, triggering an evasion response calculated in milliseconds. Breaking the enemy's visual axis is the most effective method of survival. The excessive growth of the anatomical radar structure begins to obstruct directional optics. To resolve this physical bottleneck, the body triggers a restructuring mutation. Facial fur hardens into a protective shield. Herdia forms, establishing the transition from a scouting structure to a defensive structure. The increase in body mass is accompanied by the development of echolocating olfaction. Dark-type predators always choose to approach from optical blind spots. By accurately calculating the opponent's momentum, it minimizes the evasion distance to conserve stamina. The predator realizes the energy expenditure yields no efficiency, immediately abandoning the target. But in nature, the most ruthless enemy has no fangs. It is temperature, thermodynamics. The current anatomical structure lacks sufficient thermal insulation coefficient to sustain an entire pack. The final evolution is driven by the collective survival need, Stoutland, a complete thermodynamic fortress. Its weight and muscle mass now serve as an impenetrable physical barrier. By adjusting its center of gravity, it allows inertia to nullify the attack trajectory itself. Evolution is not meant to destroy enemies, but to become the most steadfast protective ecosystem amidst harsh nature.